couple of Trump's campaign people got freaked out by the reporting the other day. I think it was in the Times. Basically talked about Donald Trump and his call this weekend for getting rid of the vermin in our country. Here is Donald Trump. And this is part of, there's really two parts to this. Well, three parts to the story. One is Donald Trump is an authoritarian proto-fascist. Two, all this stuff about weaponization of government that the Republicans have been involved with. Donald Trump was already doing this in his last term. Many of these things that are being written about where he's supposedly going to do in 2025, he was doing these in 2024. But the other element is they are going to professionalize it. Mm-hmm. And the Heritage Foundation is on board and is already drawing up plans and is already starting to collect resumes to professionalize the deconstruction of the administrative state.
So it's ready to go. So essentially, as soon as he gets into office,
and it's super efficient. Here is Donald Trump in Claremont, New Hampshire. This was over the weekend. Here he is giving his vision for a Trump presidency.
For places that want to be left alone, we will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media until they become real. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will finish the job that we started better than anybody has ever started a job before.
Can you just pause it? You don't even need to take it off the screen, but like he says the most concerning stuff you maybe have ever heard in politics ever, and then ends it in this just like hilarious Trumpian way, and you realize
a job like you never started it before.
It's just like
nobody starts a job like we started a job.
Yeah, he could keep going.
Before. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. You're going to be forgotten no longer. With your help, your love, and your vote, we will put America first. And today, especially in honor of our great veterans on Veterans Day, we pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country, that lie and steal and cheat on elections and will do anything possible. They'll do anything, whether legally or illegally, to destroy America and to destroy the American dream. The real threat is not from the radical right. The real threat is from the radical left, and it's growing every day, every single day. The threat from outside forces is far less sinister, dangerous, and grave than the threat from within. Our threat is from within, because if you have a capable, competent, smart, tough leader, Russia, China, North Korea, then
Stephen Miller probably wrote that segment, right? I mean, you pull that, like the threats from within, it's the vermin, it's the Marxists, it's the communists, throw in the fascists. And I mean, people have already written extensively about this. You're quoting Mussolini,
yeah,
and Hitler and any other sort of like despot.
It's a fascist speech, but then also the Marxists are the fascists too. I'm reminded of when like Chris Matthews on MSNBC was worried that Bernie Sanders' victory would result in public executions in Central Park. But that's the kind of rhetoric where we're going to root out the vermin, the leftists and the communists. That's the kind of rhetoric where you get really concerned about democracy and dissent really being tamped down in a way that maybe we haven't seen in the history of the country. And they drop this in there for a couple of reasons. One is they want people talking more about Donald Trump. They figure they have already lost the people they're going to lose.
it also just sort of expands the playing field of what becomes appropriate and just gearing up for this election. And but like I say, this type of talk, their campaign, at least in like an article on page like 25 of the newspaper, came out and said, well, we're not necessarily going to be doing too many crazy things. Here is let me just go over like what they're doing. Like I said, there is a 1,000-page, I guess it's about 900 pages, Project 2025 handbook put out by the Heritage Foundation. It is, you'll recall at the end of the Trump administration, they put in by executive order a change to the way that civil servants were hired and fired in our government. It was a change to Schedule F. Biden reversed it. But what it would have done is it would have allowed for about something like when you come in, you can get rid of about 4,000 civil servants in different positions throughout our government. This would allow for the getting rid of about 40,000. Now, they were able to drive out a lot of basically, I mean, you call them bureaucrats, in our government by making things just really difficult on them, whether it was at the EPA or the Bureau of Land Management or the FDA. When you have political leadership that is trying to undermine what the mission of the agency is, people who went into that business essentially to do stuff that, like, I care about the environment, I'm going to be an environmental lawyer. They go in there, and when the political leadership starts to defang and demoralize the agency, people leave. This happens at all the agencies. Scientists leave, labor enforcement leaves, all on and on. That was the project that they began during Trump's first term. But this time around, like I say, the Heritage Foundation is adamant about professionalizing it. So it is a 920-page policy book, 400 plus contributors. It is being perceived as basically a transition team set in place instead of starting it in, September of the election year. It's happening 2 years out. They've been working on this document.
Vetting basically people so they can hit the ground running on seemingly prosecuting some of Trump's political opponents to start.
They're working on trying to set up a database of 54,000 loyal Trumpists, essentially. Like I say, there are 80 groups that are involved in this. Charlie Kirk's Turning Points USA, Center for Renewing America, American Movement, all of these different things. And what they're starting to do already is to interview applicants. They already have 4,000 people in their presidential personnel database. These people are all vetted based upon their social media to see if they've ever been critical of MAGA or Trump in any way. The applicants are asked to name one person, past or present, who has most influenced the development of your political philosophy. Same with a book. They're basically just looking for ideologues, less so necessarily people competent at, do you have environmental policy work? Do you have food safety work? No, doesn't matter. Are you going to listen to what we tell you to do? Yes. Can you establish that you would do, like, you were truthfully that way? Okay, look at my my past social media, et cetera, et cetera. And the idea is they're going to go in and they're going to try and deconstruct the administrative state, just like Steve Bannon promised at CPAC back in 2016, I think it was, in the summer of 2016. They're involved in a massive headhunting quest to recruit 20,000 people to serve in the next administration. There will be 4,000 presidential appointments and as many as 50,000 replacements for federal workers who are so-called policy adjacent. The way they will do that is to reinstitute their Schedule F plan, which they're looking to do when they get back into office, which will allow them to fire, like I say, about 40,000 federal workers who are in like quasi, they're civil servants in our federal government. So this is what Trump insiders, this is according to Axios, how it would go. First, it would be the Justice Department and the FBI and the intelligence community. We're not talking about reforms here. We're just talking about slashing and cutting. Some instances I wouldn't be too sad about that, but I assure you, Civil Rights Division, Antitrust Division, various components of the Department of Justice are going to be slashed. Then Department of Homeland Security and the border, they want detention camps. I would be undoubtedly privatized detention camps. More than we have now, let's be clear. We have that. Then the Schedule F personnel powers would be rolled in. And on and on. I mean, the bottom line is deconstruct the administrative state. The real scary part about this is this time, the first time they were getting their feet wet, this time they're going to do it. They're going to approach it.
Streamline it.
Like a consulting business. This is, McKinsey, but for right-wing fascist fanatics. Or another McKinsey for right-wing fascist fanatics.
Yeah, it's a good reminder of what we are up against in 2024. Trump going to be the nominee, most likely.
Well, here's the other thing.
Unless he's thrown in jail, I don't know.
But let's play this clip, because we can talk about, Project 2025 as a Trump project. And this, again, Heritage Foundation, 920-page document outlining exactly how they're basically going to deconstruct the administrative state. And here's Steve Bannon to remind you that this is not a Donald Trump project. The Heritage Foundation is essentially the epicenter of Republican thought in this country. They're the ones who came up with that list for all the judges for Donald Trump to appoint, and he did it. And he doesn't care. He takes the list they give him and they do it. Here's Steve Bannon to remind you, this is not just about Donald Trump. The people who put together this handbook, they're in touch with DeSantis's campaign chair. This is a Republican project, and this is the new Republican Party. Maybe not so new, but here's Steve Bannon.
You have a MAGA lawyer who likes to come on your podcast, Mike Davis. Here's what he suggested were the top priorities for Trump's attorney general. 1, fire the deep state executive branch. 2, indict the whole Biden family. 3, deport 10 million people, kids in cages. It will be glorious. 4, detain people at Gitmo. 5, pardon every January 6th defendant. What do you think about that 5-step plan?
I think it's fantastic.
All 5?
All 5. We're going to start the largest deportation program in history. All 10 million must leave.
You're saying that it's about people's gut feelings, it's about people's lived experiences. You think somebody that's struggling, right now in the economy cares about firing random deep state people, indicting Joe Biden's
there's many things
brother,
Tim,
deporting
did
people?
I say that's all they're going to do? That's Mike Davis would probably be the attorney general.
Trump laughs about Nancy Pelosi's husband being assaulted.
How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know? She has a wall around her house, which obviously didn't do a very good job.
He said that Mark Milley should be executed. He wants to pardon these January 6th insurrectionists who beat cops with flagpoles. And then he talks about we should have the shoplifters killed, right? Is there not a pattern here that Trump's rhetoric is demonstrably getting more violent?
But any president of the United States that's come from behind at 16 and then try to have his administration thwarted from day one, then win a massive win in 2020 and have it stolen from him,
No one has ever been able to produce a shred of evidence that there was a stolen election in 2020. An administration, a powerful man, a billionaire with a lot of lawyers on his side who went out and adjudicated it in all kinds of venues at your urging and others and lost in every single venue with Republican judges who were often appointed by him.
We'll have plenty of time for that after we win in 2024. We'll get to the bottom of how it was stolen. We will hold people responsible and criminal charges against those people who stole it.
Okay, but as long as he is around, everyone has to kiss the ring. Everyone has to espouse the fake election fraud, or else they're excommunicated.
Not excommunicated, but you're not part of this movement. This is kind of the inner workings of this civil war between the Republican establishment and MAGA. And in there, you have litmus tests, okay? And one of the litmus tests is
Trump.
Not just President Trump, but also particularly the stealing of the 2020 election. That is a fundamental tenet of this movement. By the way, they've made it all about Trump, okay? This movement is ascendant and is going to go on long after Donald Trump is only get more powerful and broader. Even if a Democrat was to win, there's no compromise here.
What you're saying is even if Trump lost to Biden, there's no going back to the old Republican Party.
Farther right than Trump.
Farther right.
President Trump is a moderate in our movement. You're going to pine in future years that you wished Donald Trump was around.
There you go.
I mean, yeah, I don't understand what is necessarily to be gained by going down that road with Bannon, but Bannon's hitching his agenda to a guy like Donald Trump. But as you say, it's not just Trump and it's not just Bannon. The Heritage Foundation is fully on board with it. And so the problem is that the Republican Party isn't as divided as Bannon says between the MAGAs and the regular Republicans. The establishment of the party is certainly personified by the Heritage Foundation. They're completely on board with this. And
I would say, really what it is, it's just simply a difference between, Coke and Pepsi. The fundamental, the cola part is still there. Yeah. They are all interested in the same sort of policy goals. It really becomes more of slightly different at the margin. Which part of that, which industry player are you going with? The MAGA crew who have their set of friends, or the establishment Republicans who have their sets of friends? And arguably, the establishment have a little bit more constraints on them, but not so much that you won't see that attack, that full frontal attack on the administrative state. I mean, that's just the bottom line.